All right, hello everybody, and welcome to AFAPWA's final action circle in the Transforming Education cycle. Today is August 8th, 2020, and the moon is waning towards the new moon, which will occur on August 19th. And during this time of the moon cycle, we focus our attention on forgiveness and surrender. August is back to school month, National Breastfeeding Month, National Eye Exam Month, National Immunization Awareness Month, and today is also known as National Sneak Some Zucchini Onto Your Neighbor's Porch Day. So if you have any zucchini and you would like to sneak it onto your neighbor's porch, today is the day that you would do that. My name is Abigail Twyman, and I am joining you today from the home I share with my husband, Dustin, and our dog, Zeppelin, in the community of Knockety Bay. Our Alaskan oasis is located on northern Prince of Wales Island in southeast Alaska, which is located in Lincoln-Awney, which is the land of the Tlingit people, which they also shared with the Haida and Tsimshian people, specifically in what is the ancestral homeland of the people of the Texarkana or Coast Town tribe. I am honored to be able to share this space with my ancestors and the ancestors of those indigenous to this land I currently inhabit, who fill my soul with a fire that fuels my action. I am dedicated to remembering forward and passing along their immense wisdom for the benefit of future generations and protection of our shared home. I'm also deeply honored to be able to share this space with all of the beautiful humans and change catalysts who have been inspired and empowered to join our pod. I'm dedicated to using this privileged body I was born into and this platform to catalyze collective action. And I thank you for your commitment to acting in the service of creating peace for yourself, your family, your community, and all the inhabitants of Mother Earth. And welcome, Lisa. I'll add your number. Okay. So in the service of setting our intentions for the circle today, can remind everybody that Action Circles is all about learning how to have more effective conversations around challenging topics, as well as effectively collaborating with others who share our vision, mission, and values. When we come to the circle, we assume the answers to all our questions are within the circle because we've brought the right group of people together with a collective wealth of knowledge and experience. Our guiding theory is that our respective change efforts within our personal and professional lives, as well as our movements and organizations, have had limited impact on the overall trajectory of the data. Therefore, it is incumbent upon us to adjust our approach. By bringing voices together and guiding the conversation in a new yet very old way, we have the potential to develop plans of action which are much more likely to get us to the end goal, a truly just, equal, and peaceful world, the way it used to be and the way it always should have been. Our goal is to catalyze the spread of action circles around the world in the service of creating peace through collective action. Today, we are wrapping up our conversation about how we as a collective will come together to transform the educational system. COVID-19 has brought to the forefront the stark reality that many of us already knew. Something needs to change to ensure that all children are afforded the opportunity to succeed in their lives. The path towards this ideal comes through a just and equitable system, which is not our current reality. And the intended outcome of action circles is to end each cycle, so this first cycle ends today, and our goal is to have ended this cycle with a clear picture of the next right actions, both as a collective and as individuals. So I thank you all for being here today to share your wisdom with the circle in response to our guiding question for the day, which is, what are we doing to transform education? Before we begin the conversation, it's important to establish agreements that will guide us and protect us within the circle. The 6 agreements are a starting point for action circles as they belong to the circle. I will, as I read them, I will paste them into the chat so everybody can both hear and read them. So the first agreement, computer's having a little issue here. The first agreement is that while every action circle will be recorded and made public, those stories shared within the circle should not be shared, or should only be shared in a way that protects, uplifts, inspires, and empowers others. I heard it explained a really good way in another circle I was a part of, is that the stories stay in the circle and the lessons leave, is a good way to think about that. Our second agreement is that we listen for understanding and are mindful of how our words and actions impact the flow of the circle, and take responsibility for addressing any hurts we may cause. The third agreement is that we know that we are not going to solve all these complex problems overnight, but we are committed to learning and unlearning so we can be more impactful with our actions. The fourth agreement is that from time to time, we will pause to gather our thoughts or focus. Silent counsel can be called by any member of the circle by using the chat function. For instance, you could use the term or the phrase waste, or that's waste. Why am I still talking? Or that's Gelmo. That's good enough. Let's move on. So not something to be, we're not using this in a negative way. It's just that to, in honor of the circle and in honor of keeping us moving forward, we can help each other be very thoughtful with our words and mindful of our words, and help each other move on when we have reached that point. The fifth agreement is that the chat function is reserved for contributions from those who choose typing as their preferred mode of communication, and for gems or quotes, which are harvested by the scribes, which are any member in this circle. Also, if you have, you are always welcome to pass by speaking out the word pass or typing it in the chat function. And our final agreement is that whenever possible, we take a pause before speaking and use sound verbal behavior, which is measured or deliberate speech, when sharing our perspectives with the circle. So we're going to make our first round of the circle, the talking piece circle, to do our introductions. And today our introductions are going to be rather brief, as we have some good meaty things to get to talk about. So today our introduction is going to be your name and maybe just a few words about who you are, and a land acknowledgement if you have one, acknowledgement of the agreements. And then today we're going to share our emoticolors. And so I'll share what that is. So it's before we did two emotions words together, today we're going to do an emotion and a color together to describe how we're feeling and coming into the day. So I'm going to just pause for a few seconds before giving my introduction, to give you all a moment to think about your own introduction. Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Abigail Twyman. I am a humanistic behavioral scientist, a creative writer, and a data-driven optimist. I acknowledge that I am on the ancestral and unceded territory of Indigenous peoples of Alaska, specifically Tlingit, the traditional homeland of the Tlingit, Haida, and Tsimshian people. I know the Indigenous people of this land never surrendered lands or resources to Russia or any European nations. I acknowledge this not only in thanks to the Indigenous communities who have held relationship with this land for generations, but also in recognition of the historical and ongoing legacy of colonialism. Additionally, I acknowledge this as a point of reflection for myself and us all as we work towards dismantling colonial practices. I have heard, understood, and agree to uphold the agreements as I stated them. And today I am feeling Serenia, which is serene and sienna at the same time. And and then I also forgot to mention that we are numbered to go in circle order. And so please notice what your number is and who the person is that comes before you and after you in number order. So you can help to prompt pay attention to when your turn is coming and also help to cue the next person in the circle. So I will pass it to Alex.
Hello, I'm Alex. Let's see, I am right now in Madison, Wisconsin, originally inhabited by the Ho-Chunk people. And I agree to the agreements. And let's see, colors mean different things. I didn't realize it was emotion and a color. So for various reasons I could explain later, let's call it detergandy. It's determined and burgundy.
Ready to pass it to me?
Yes. So next is Chris.
No worries. So yeah, I'm Chris Gewurz, in education being the relevant thing. I'm teaching engineering at Virginia Tech this fall. Online is what we've decided. And I'm also working on just negotiations and trying to change the Roanoke City school system, Roanoke, Virginia. And one of the things I have to do right now is write a speech for them, or to give at the school board meeting, which is going to happen in a couple of days. Anyway, I'm in Radford, Virginia, and this land used to belong to the Tutelo people. They call themselves the Yesang. So, and yeah, I think these rules are going to be really conducive to good conversation. So I'm looking forward to practicing them. And as far as an emote color, busy silver is what I was thinking. So. And I'll pass it off to who's number 3. Oh, deep in there.
Hello, everyone. I am Deepinder Ransi from New Jersey. My land acknowledgement is to Lenni Lenape Indians and my land back in India. I'm from India. I'm acknowledging that land and I'm acknowledging the agreements. I am a BCBA and I'm also a yoga and mindful meditation teacher. I've been teaching from last 15 years. It's my passion and I love doing it. And I have grown a lot personally and professionally with it. So, and I don't know, we were holding talking pieces since I brought one out to share. I had a card of my mom. She was a principal in a school at an era in a time when Indian women didn't go to school at all. There were very few high school graduates even. So she was my role model to follow the higher education because of her. So I just tell her card that they used to tell her she's a headmistress. So that's what it says, headmistress. This is in 1995, she retired. Yes. Anyway, and my color emoji is, I wrote it down because I don't want to mix up. I'm kind of tired. So it is fire green, tire green. So it sounds funny though, but thank you. And I pass it on to John Kelly.
Hello, I'm John Kelling. I'm from Madison, along with Alex. I acknowledge the agreements. My emotive color for today is relaxed and green. This green is a very relaxing color for me. I pass it off to, I'm searching for 5 here, Mary Wang.
I am indeed Mary Wang. I'm also in Madison, occupied by the Ho-Chunk people. The land on which our university is built has quite a few burial mounds with the Ho-Chunk, which is an ethical issue that the university is starting to work on a little more seriously than they have in the past. I'm gonna check my notes. I am a lifelong teacher of languages, especially English, to speakers of other languages, and a lifelong teacher trainer, an effective altruism and rationality organizer, and a mom to 2 adult children. My color for today is sundude, a sunny yellow, and subdued, because I'm a little under the weather. And number 6 is Maximus. Oh, and I acknowledge the agreements.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Maximus Pepperkamp, and I'm speaking from Chico, which is the ancestral land of the Maidus, but also the, what is it, the Mechupta tribe. And they have their ancestral village here in Little Butte Creek in Chico. And I'm a psychology instructor and a self-taught behaviorist and behaviorologist, currently reading an incredibly important book, which I mentioned on the writing. My color is yellow, and oh, this is my thing that I want to show you. This is a little gift that I was given by the chair of my department as a form of recognition. It's the Golden Stapler Award. When my students bring me their papers, they always say, "Do you have a stapler?" And I say, "Yeah, I have a stapler." They get to hold the Golden Stapler Award. And my word for today is calm and rest. So calm rest. And yeah, I honor the agreements, and specifically taking pause and also learning as well as unlearning. That's something that I just want to think about. And so did I cover everything? Yeah. Then I hand over to the next person, number 7. Who is that? That's Rachel White.
Yeah. So I'm Rachel White. I'm in Eagle River, Alaska on Denina land. I acknowledge the agreements, and my emotive color for today is orange excitement, because we're having a birthday party for my kid this afternoon. So orange and excitement. And I will pass to Lisa.
There. Thank you. I'm Lisa Cates, and I live in Hollis, which is on Prince of Wales Island in Alaska. That's the land of the Tlingit and the Haida and the Tsimshian. I acknowledge the agreements and really love them. I'm a retired prison administrator who decided to teach for my retirement, and I'm a special educator. So I'm a bit passionate, like many teachers, I think. It took me about 10 years before I could use the word teacher for me, because teachers were always held in a certain way when I was a child, and I didn't think that I could use that term yet, if that makes any sense. Today, I'm really struggling with the color. I can tell you I'm feeling introspective angst. So I thought about purple. I thought I can't pick a color. So I think that should give you a sense of where I am. Maybe angst, or so. Thank you. And I pass this on to Abby.
Thank you. And Angelina jumped back in. Angelina.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I pass this on to Angelina. Thank you.
Yeah, I dropped off there for a minute. I'm Angelina Mcmichael, soon to be Angelina Guerrero again, which Guerrero means warrior, and it feels very fitting for where I am in life. I'm excited to be here. I really appreciate the invitation. I'm not sure how I ended up here totally, but it feels in alignment with where I am at this time. I'm in Anchorage, Alaska, land of the Dena'ina people. I'm a student and mother of 3, master of none. We've been unschooling and life learning for about a decade, and it's been a wonderful journey. I didn't know what I was doing, but I'm glad I did it. I'm rediscovering who I am and learning to use my voice and articulate, not play it small anymore. And I agree to the agreements. I'm feeling very orange and complete. Not sure how to combine those two, but with that, I will pass to, is there anybody else? That was it, huh?
Yep, just comes back to me. Thank you, Angelina, for joining and accepting the invitation. I really appreciate it. I actually happened upon Angelina's name when doing some research on homeschooling and unschooling, and so thought that you would be a good person to bring into this conversation and share this space with us. So thank you and welcome. Okay, so thank you everybody for sharing a little bit of yourself and for agreeing to the agreements, acknowledging the agreements. As we know, when we come into the circle in person, we would have a talking piece, or we would have a centerpiece on which we would focus, and that would kind of be the center of our conversation. And because the power of the circle is that opposed to common approaches to difficult conversations, which often end in power struggles, here we speak from the rim of the circle into the center. Our voices have equal power, and we all have something important to contribute. Our centerpiece today is a picture that I took the other day of the sturgeon moon. That will come up. So the other morning I went out, and usually when it's nice weather, I will go outside and do my morning meditation outside. And the sturgeon moon happened on August 3rd, but it was cloudy and we were unable to see the moon. And the other morning, it was August 5th, I went outside and it was cloudy, and I did my meditation, and I opened my eyes, and boom, this moon was right down my driveway. So I was like, I've got to capture this. It's so beautiful. So this is a slightly past full moon for you to think about, and as we center ourselves for our discussion today. So as we progress throughout this action circle cycle, we have shared our wisdom and caught the wisdom of others. Many of us are feeling very full of ideas and inspiration, and have harnessed this energy to create plans of action, both individually and as a collective. Now is the time to seal these intentions, commit to acting in the service of them, and then surrendering to the flow. Let it go and let your heart now guide the way. We are going to I'm going to read you a quote, and then we are going to have some time for silent reflection. And I'll play a couple songs while we're doing that. So the quote that I have that I shared last week as well is that we need clear, concise, conceptually systematic plans to address our myriad challenges as a world. What if we collaborate to create transformation plans for our individual communities while working as a collective to create a functionally analytic, context-based, culturally responsive framework from which others could create plans to transform their own communities? We have an opportunity to choose another path. We are currently at a crossroads, and it is essential to do whatever it takes to create for ourselves and our future ancestors a just, equitable, and peaceful world. So for the next few minutes, you are going to be invited to engage in some free writing or free thinking in response to the question, what am I doing to transform education? And we're kind of thinking about 4 different time frames. What am I doing immediately? What am I doing in the short range, next 6 to 12 months? What am I doing in the medium range, 2 to 4 years? And then what am I doing in the long range in 5 to 10 years? I'll put those into the chat box as well, so you have that. And while you're thinking or writing about this, I'm going to play 2 songs. The first song is going to be I Won't Back Down by Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. And the second song will be Let It Be by the Beatles. Once the songs have ended, we'll come back together and share with the circle what we're doing as individuals and as a collective to transform education. So you can feel free to get started, get your paper out, and I'm going to mute myself and get our songs going and paste the questions in the chat. Okay. All right. So hopefully you all were able to, within about 7 minutes of music, able to collect your thoughts and things that you want to share with the circle. So how we're going to structure the remainder of our time is we're actually going to do a little bit different talking piece counsel, where each person is going to get about 5 minutes to share what they're doing. So you can focus on one of those questions, what you're doing right now. You could or you know what your long-term plans are in the next 10 years. This is what you hope to accomplish. Or you can kind of focus on, you can kind of briefly tell us about your immediate, short, medium, and long-term goals and objectives. And then, so we're going to do 5 minutes. Each person will have an opportunity. And then we're going to do 2 minutes of what's called conversation counsel, which means that anybody can raise their hand, and we're going to use the raise hand function in the chat to kind of, so if you have a question for the person, if you have a comment, if something, then raise your hand while the person's talking or shortly thereafter, and then we'll have about 2 minutes to do conversation counsel. So does anybody have any questions about that before we get started? Yes, Alex.
Let's see. So the 2 minutes conversation counsel, is that immediately after each person speaks, or is that after everyone has already spoken?
That's a great question. It's immediately after the person speaks. So you're going to get 5 minutes to speak, 2 minutes of conversation counsel, and then we'll pass to the next person. Okay, awesome. Okay. So were there any other questions to clarify? And then
I don't see where a raise hand function is. Why do I mute participants chat? Where's the raise hand function?
If you click on participants, then at the bottom of the participant list, there will be a raise hand and yes, no, and go forward faster.
Okay, thank you.
awesome. Thank you, Rachel. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start my timer for 5 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put mine into the chat so you have a little bit of text while I'm talking. So my immediate thing that I'm doing is something that kind of came to me last night, as I've talked about previously. My focus has been on learning more about decolonization and what that means and what it looks like, and how to notice when something like when things are kind of when colonization and colonial practices have negatively influenced, either in a covert way or in an overt way or in a covert way. And last night I was practicing the piano because I'm working on a set list for some sort of, I don't know what it is going to be, like some sort of mini concert or bringing the people in our community together and singing these songs. I'm not sure, but my point is that last summer, a woman who came up here with one of the church groups to help work on Eagle's Wings, which is a residential treatment program for women in this community that they're working to get going. And they have groups from down south that come and help build the houses that the women will stay in for this residential treatment program. And one of the women was one of the people who came was a piano teacher, and sat down with me and started talking to me about some music theory and how chords are developed. And I had done music education a long time ago. I started learning how to play the piano when I was about 4, and had always learned that for any of you musicians out there, the how to read music and how to read the staff of music, and to know which note is represented by each line in each space. And for those of you who have had that experience and have learned that, you'll know that it's good boys do fine always. And face, F-A-C-E. I forget what that one. And that's the G clef, that's the top. And then the F clef, the bottom, is now I've got to get my notes to remember for myself what it is. And so I had this idea that we need to, and like good boys do fine always, and all cows eat grass, and it's just boring, and it's old school, and it's, you know, we need something different, something more behavior analytic. So I came up with now hold on, I can't find my notes. What was it? Every great behaviorist derives functions. So I won't go into all of my four mnemonics for the G clef, both the lines and the spaces, but they're all behavior analytic in nature. And I was super proud of my brain last night for coming up with these clever mnemonics to decolonize music education and to create something that I could share with students that I am teaching music to. So that is what I am doing in the immediate term to transform education. And that is almost exactly the end of my 5 minutes. And so kind of we'll give a moment for some thought before I start the time. If you have a comment, question, please feel free to raise your hand. Okay, so I will start with Rachel.
When you said decolonize music education, I was wondering, since you have a more musical background, how much exposure to or education to other cultures' music is involved and what that might look like. So that was just kind of a thought. I don't know if it's really a question.
Yeah, that's a good thought, and one that, you know, I want to make sure that all of our, you know, our music education is representative of all cultures. So that's something I'll be thinking about and incorporating into the plan. Thank you for that. Mary.
So are you having students create their own mnemonics as you did, or were you going to share yours with them?
Ooh, that is a good
Because
question.
I love the idea of children. I mean, as a child learning piano, I remember being really disappointed in those boring, stupid mnemonics. But I didn't feel I had the agency to make my own, and that would have been so much better.
Yeah, I love that.
Probably easier to remember too.
Yes, that is brilliant. Thank you so much for that suggestion. Maximus, what did you have to share?
Oh, I just want to let you know that now I understand that that picture that you sent to me. I didn't immediately understand it. I was just trying to figure out what you meant or so, and now I get it.
Awesome. Yeah, so I get
It's nice.
these ideas.
Yeah.
And then like I want to create some sort of visual. So I put together my mnemonics and I put them on a t-shirt and I just snapshotted it and sent it to Maximus to get his, because he's
Nice.
also
It's nice.
musically
I like it.
inclined.
I didn't know what to respond, so sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I didn't provide you with any context. So the 2 minutes of conversation council has ended. And so I will end my time and pass it to Alex.
let's see. So what I was writing down here is the sorts of things that I'm trying to do immediately. Now that I've got a toolbox that I'd like people to be able to make their own. I'm trying to figure out how to get people to think differently about the problems that they're facing. And so identified some key points that I think will help people start thinking and actually take an interest. We got inspiration mindset, trying to come up with a vision for the future so that people can actually think about what they want rather than just what they reject. Like what do we want the entire world to look like? And that way, instead of focusing on a particular problem and trying to get rid of it by changing everything so that that particular problem becomes impossible, think about the world they want as a whole, with things to replace all of the problems with, constructive things. And that's going to take a lot of work. So the next thing is pride, appealing to people's sense of wanting to control things and do things that make them feel like they have the power to create and to create and to help, to contribute. So trying to beat complacency by giving people that sense of agency. Let's see. And then boldness as kind of goes along with pride, but it's a bit different. Being willing to say, I think that this is the best, and let's have an argument about it, and then we'll all learn something. Figure that's actually going to get people to talk and share a lot more than just something they already agree with, is when they start out feeling angry and then they learn something. So I might as well try that. Haven't tried it yet. Let's see. And then getting people to buy in to the vision by establishing shared goals, because I realized that I've never actually done that, and I've barely been part of anything that does. Establishing, okay, not just we're all here because we want this, but okay, so you're here presumably because you want this, but what do you want, and how can we help you get that? That's going to get people to actually be involved. That'll give them something to take pride in and share the vision. And then that's going to get the energy going. And then I guess the last thing I've got here is empathy, to help people deal with people who don't know the rules already, because everyone's trying to get everyone else to learn their rules, and then once you learn my rules, it's going to be great. But that just makes a mess when everyone's trying to do that. So we have to start out with using empathy so that we get the benefits without them having to learn your rules or you having to learn my rules. And then we'll just see what rules we end up with after we all are doing that for a while. So that's what I'm going to be working on immediately. Not sure how much time I've got left.
You've got about 2 minutes.
Oh, wow, that was fast. Okay, must be doing good then. Let's see. So what else have I got? Working on, so that's the next article after my observation mindset article, is working on that article, the vision for the future. Hopefully I'll be able to make people angry, because that will result in people actually reading my blog. So now I think I'm ready to actually deal with that now. Got to get the resilient empathy and the inspiration mindset and say, okay, so what do you want? Let's talk. I think I can deal with that. I might as well use this extra time for getting feedback. That's probably going to be more important. Waste, yes. Why am I still talking? Let's hear from the audience.
Awesome, thank you. All right, so feel free to raise your hand if you have questions, comments for Alex.
The shared goals thing is super important, and it feels good to be a part of when that does happen. And yeah, my like short-term action, which I'll talk about when you pass the football to me, involves a lot of that, and I feel like that it's also super rewarding. So, I don't know. It was easy for me to fall into the shared action because my partner is like helping lead it. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'll help. But I'm sure I mean, we're doing like shared goals now too, somewhat. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. I find it seems like most people gather around what is assumed to be a shared goal, but then it either stays or it doesn't. It can dissolve as people go in different directions. I think keeping things together involves renewing those shared goals in some way, and reevaluating the direction of the group and how it can help everyone. Oh, we've got more hands. Let's see, Rachel.
I was just gonna say with the feedback, like I think I get what you're saying with the like make people angry so that then they actually read the blog, right? Which is kind of how internet culture works right now. But I don't know. I wonder if there's a way to do it without anger so much as like motivation. And maybe their motivation is to prove you wrong, so they have to dig through all of your stuff. But I don't know. That was the only thing, was just like hearing that word. I'm like, oh, I don't know that word sits well. But that was it.
Yeah, not literally disrespecting people, but people feel like they need to correct me, and that's great because then they're trying and I'm learning and they're learning. So that's the goal. Right. Mary, how about you?
I was just going to add to what Chris said, which is that I think there's a lot of research on that makes it pretty clear that if people are angry at each other, and a lot of people are, and they think they want really different things, it's not impossible to boil it down to shared goals and say, okay, we do have these shared goals, and I think the way we get there is this way, and you think the way we get there is that way. Let's agree that we have a shared goal, that we want our children to be well educated, or that we want our children to be healthy. And usually that's pretty helpful in starting to establish a working relationship. So I like that idea.
Thanks. And Lisa?
Mine might already be summarized. I was just thinking about, you said think about what we want rather than what we reject. And I think that's the core thing, is everyone's really quick to say, I don't like this, I don't want that. And that's what divides us. But if you can ask everyone, so what do you want? And that's where we come together, because typically we are, I don't want to come up with all kinds of things, but so often there's one nugget. We all want healthy children. We all want our children to be, self-directed lifelong learners. And so we can agree to that. And we may say we all want our children to question, but not everybody does. But that's where the tough discussions can happen. And maybe it's not anger, but passion you want to ignite. And the ability for people to, yes, maybe proving you wrong is their motivation, but maybe it's more seeing it from their point of view and then trying to see it from your point of view, and then something happens where you both make a shift. And I love empathy for the people who don't know the rules already. And, this is bold, because when we're all focused on the same thing, and when everyone sets the goal, it's pretty empowering. We're all pretty used to waiting for someone to tell us what to do. And then we can either argue against it or support it. Thank you.
That was awesome.
Thanks a lot, Lisa.
Awesome.
Wait
Okay, so
time
now,
or
yeah, yep. So, so then that was the end of that time. So now the next step would just be for you to pass it.
okay, I'll hand it off to Chris then.
Hi. So I'm gonna copy and paste like a shortened version, kind of like what Abigail did. And I think probably just focusing on the short term would be the most productive because it's like aligned with a lot of what we're already talking about. So immediately, but I'll just go quickly through immediate. I'm not doing anything because I have to do graduate school work, and I'm caught in a web of academia is how I wrote it down. So, but that's what my immediate situation looks like. As far as short-term goals, I'm working on speaking at Roanoke City Public School functions, and one thing that I worked on over the past week was, and actually I've been working on for a little while maybe, is developing resources to educate people about school resource officers, or police in schools. And the city, okay, so I don't know when they started implementing school resource officers, but in general, they're problematic. Anywhere, pretty much they're problematic. I mean, there are maybe some select cases where they're actually helpful, but in general, they're part of the school to prison pipeline. The city has had an ever-shifting plan that pays lip service to restorative justice in terms of reopening. They're like, yeah, we're gonna do community functions or something like that and community building, but they haven't really been very specific about it. And you know what's really specific is the $500,000 that they're giving to the school resource officer program. That is that even going to be put to use if they open up virtually? Because currently their first 9 weeks of school are going to be virtual. So maybe even just cut it by, I don't know, $0.1 million, $100,000 for some of those programs. They can actually put their money where their mouths have been, for things like accessible counselors, community workshops, and I think they should also be preparing for safe after-school programs when/if schools are forced to reopen to a COVIDious world. So that's like one of the things I'm doing in the short term. And there's like a people's assembly happening in Roanoke that I helped contribute like a lot of the kind of intellectual resources for the discussions they're going to have about what to do about SROs. And then I also wanted to address, like, I think this is very, very relevant to the claim or the statement about, you know, we all want healthy children. I definitely agree that most people would agree to that, or everyone would agree to that. But it's very interesting how the disagreement forms, because a lot of people believe that SROs are creating that circumstance, like that they are making schools safer for their children. But the evidence that they have to go on is that their SRO is nice, or their SRO is friendly. He's a nice guy. My kids love him. But you know, you're not really paying him to be a friendly guy, and they'd probably love a school counselor too. And also, SROs, basically, all the evidence shows that they're not effective for making places safer. And in fact, for the minority children, they might be making it worse. It's very likely that they could be making it worse, and or participating in the slow funneling of children to prison. So anyway, and so the goal here, or the approach here, is to like acknowledge that parents might really feel this way, and that it is legitimate to want your schools to be safer, want your children to be safe from, say, things like school shootings. But we also have to acknowledge the truth of the matter too, which is that SROs don't help, and in fact it's very likely that they hurt. And even just by existing, they might hurt by funneling $100,000 to $500,000 away from effective programs. So So that is the kind of thing that I'm focusing on in the short term. In the long term, I have other plans and I'm kind of all over the place, but yeah, so I don't know if that's 5 minutes, but I'm ready for feedback and discussion. So.
You got 10 seconds left. That was perfect.
Okay.
So we can open it up for conversation. So it looks like you have a few hands raised.
Oh, sorry. Sure. Rachel.
I was just going to say that I really like this as a short-term goal. I think that it's something that, you know, has a, it's not too big and out there, right? Like you can measure whether or not you're having success with it, which is nice. And maybe the other thing to think about is when you talk about, you know, parents, some parents and community members feel like this is helping, like figure out what pieces that they feel like are and really get at that function, and how can those be met through other programs. Well, actually there are counselors. Well, actually we also have these other things, like here's other ways to meet those concerns that don't involve a person with a badge being there. So yeah, I love it.
And a gun. Yeah. And then Lisa, your hand's also raised.
Well, you spoke to one of my passions.
But it's so funny.
So I just want to share that, you know, I'm a huge fan of restorative justice, and we use that in our school. And I also, in between my career as a prison administrator, I worked at a school in their safe school program, and I walked in the room and it was white walls. And there was a sign in the front that said, "Sit down, shut up, stay still." And that was it. And I found that as long as the administration didn't hear from the kids, I could do whatever I wanted, which was great fun because we turned it into a different program. And then we ended up teaching it to other schools in the district. But the thing is, people are usually punishment focused when it's someone else's kids, and not so when it's theirs. And what I'm hearing you say is I agree with you 100% about SROs. And I know part of it was because I have some of the history. Part of it was because they wanted to create relationships. And that was a result of a part of our society that was already struggling because we moved away from community policing. And what we need to do is what can we do, law enforcement do, to make some shifts in the community for the health of the community and the kids. And then let's get counselors and social workers and art and music and life skills in the schools, and then bring people together holistically to support kids. And you're right, after school programs. And it's we moved away from working with the kids on the front end and went to a reactive place in the back end, and it's not healthy. And so you're talking about an immediate but a huge long-term shift, and I cheer you on. And I'm happy to share anything I can to support your work.
Sure. To that end, I'm working as part of a collective group that's like No Justice, No Peace, Roanoke. So if anyone's interested, or if you're interested, we put together like 3 pages talking about SROs and like this, using this hard data. It's like all referenced and stuff. Not well, like I didn't cite it very well, but it's cited. So if you're interested, actually, I can put a link. And I would pass it to Deepinder, but they're not here, so I'll pass it to John.
All right. Well, in the immediate short and medium term, honestly, I don't really have anything. I can't really think of anything other than just be aware and stay attentive to what's going on for, you know, opportunities where I can maybe contribute. I guess in the long term, I have I imagine taking on what I imagine is taking on some sort of like a speaking role or mentorship role to maybe help bring some of my perspectives to like the K through 12 um, kids. Something in particular, I guess, I had learned recently in the last few years, and this is a big thing for me, and is that I guess just so my current occupation is a software developer, and I decided I do specifically remember in 7th grade I decided that's what I was going to do, and I didn't need to go to school for it because I knew plenty. By the time I got to high school, I had already passed out all my classes, and I never actually took a class. I just did teaching assistants in high school. Graduated early, got a job. I have narcolepsy, which is a sleep disorder, and my English teacher and my principal wanted to hold me back. And basically, everything and everybody that I encountered throughout my high school career made me want to leave very quickly. And I wanted to work. I wanted to do it for a profession because I loved it. Although nobody ever taught me or told me or clued me into the idea that doing it as a profession might have been the worst choice for someone who loves it like I do, because I don't actually get to do it in the way that I love. I do it for other people for money, is essentially what I do. And I never really realized that's what I was in for. And I'm kind of stuck now because I don't really have another, like, financially, unless I make like big changes. This is what I do for a living. And then a couple years ago, I was listening to a podcast. I'm always into science and space podcasts. And somebody I was listening to was talking about his career through education. And he's, he went to graduate school. Now basically he just works at the university doing outreach and communication. And it's like everybody in space and astronomy is somehow connected to some education system and doing work through them. And it made me realize that, there's a career in education. It's not just going to school and learning. Once you get to a certain point, education turns into study, but it also turns into opportunity and the cool things, the things that are challenging, the things that are inspiring, and the things that you can work on passionately. Your big opportunities there, it depends on the field, but you get those through education systems and staying connected to education systems. And my goal in high school was to get out of the education system. Unfortunately, now, I think the way I look at my career is that the big leaps forward technologically come from passionate people in academia. They do the stuff I want to be doing. That's what they do, but nobody pays them for it. They rarely get recognized in any big way. And once those achievements are made, I get paid the big bucks to just implement it. And it's no fun. So what I imagine for myself in the long term is, I think, just trying to inspire kids to think about the education system in a different way. If you are passionate about something and you want to get out of school, think about it differently. I came to my own realization by listening to a podcast in my 30s. And I don't think that's how people should learn about that. So, again, I imagine myself speaking in front of a gymnasium full of kids because that's what I remember seeing when I was in high school. You get speakers in, and I never really took much from them, but maybe if I was there, I could have inspired a couple people. Anyway.
Awesome. Thank you, John. Okay, can move into conversation council. So if you have something that you'd like to share, please raise your hand. And then John, I'll let you call on people as you're ready.
I don't know where I see raised hands, if anybody even has one.
Oh, you can't see it? That's okay. I can manage it. I can manage it as well if you can't see it.
Oh,
So we have,
participants. Okay, I'm
yeah,
sorry.
yeah, the participant list.
Okay, Mary?
I just loved your whole story about your educational experience, and it's nice that I'm after you because it's going to kind of segue into what I'm talking about. But at the very end, you say, I want to stand up on a stage like I saw people do when I was a high school student. And yeah, you're saying, yeah, I just wanted out of there and I didn't listen to those people on the stage, basically. And I think when you're telling your story, I think how great if this guy could like run a CS club at some high school or even middle school. And what if he started talking to kids now about like what it's like to be an adult. I mean, my daughter's a writer, but she's facing the same thing you are. Like, I've done what I passionately love since I was 7, and now people are paying me for it, and that's lousing everything up. It's ruining everything, and I don't want to stop writing, but I don't want other people to own it in the way that they're owning it. I want to be able to do it in the way I want to do it. So I think it's really helpful when you hear from someone who's gone through that, but like more one-to-one than like the guy who stands on the stage at the assembly and says, this is how it is, kids, just wait till you're grown up. Much better to do it on a smaller level, I think. That's
Sure, yeah, and I get that. I've honestly thought about, well, I do this in a smaller capacity in a variety of ways. Anytime I get a chance, there's so many kids that are into programming, and as soon as I play esports, and there's a lot of like kid gamers or like early teen or mid-teen gamers, and I run a team, and I often encounter them, and many of them are into programming. So when I have the opportunity, I give them my little story too, and a lot of them just come to me and ask for questions and this and that. So I get opportunistically a chance to at least talk to a couple people here and there. I never really seek out opportunities though. One of the things that's disappointing for me is that my full-time job is exhausting, and as soon as I'm done with it, like I just like don't do anything. And that like when it comes to things that I'm not necessarily strong with, like being like responsible communication and this and that, like anybody who knows me knows that I take like a week to respond to an email if I even get back to it. And I just like totally disconnect when I'm done working. And I feel like I'm missing out on stepping up to take on more opportunities. Anyway, there was another hand raised I wanted to get to. Christopher, sorry, or did I already exhaust the 2 minutes?
Yeah, so I just want to pause for a moment so we can leave that up to the group. So the 2 minutes has lapsed, and so it's up to the group. So Christopher, I want to honor your contribution. I don't want to cut you off, but I do also want to make sure we get to everybody. Okay, so it looks like Chris is okay passing. So we can pass it to Mary.
I wanted to say hi, Sheena. Welcome.
Hello.
Yeah, I've been involved in education since 1978. So what I'm doing now is the culmination of all that. And I do a lot of teacher training. That's what I'm doing this summer. And my goals for teacher training have changed a lot from like be intelligible to be connected. And I can't even read my own handwriting, it's too small. Just to treat students with respect and compassion. Many of the international TAs come from countries where you choose your major really early on. And so if they're teaching physics, even to college freshmen, they assume that those students have taken massive amounts of physics already, and that they're really good at calculus, and that they probably have some engineering background. And that's just not correct here. Like, you may get people in a physics class who've never studied any physics and they're just curious. And so getting them tuned into a student who isn't thinking about a career in physics, but just is curious about physics is a big deal. And so teaching teachers to respect curiosity and breadth and the willingness to step outside your comfort zone and take something new, but even to respect the fact that like not all students who come to the University of Wisconsin come here from equally good high schools, so that, you know, even if they've taken AP physics classes and gotten a 4 or a 5, what they've actually learned in those classes is going to be pretty different. And again, that's different from a lot of schools overseas where there's a really strongly supported national curriculum. But the goal here is just empathy, respect, and especially respect for curiosity and people trying something new. If you'd asked me this question in February about, you know, the next 6 to 12 months, I'd have said, I'm out of here. I'm so done with Wisconsin. I'm so done with higher ed, you know, in this form. I had a job lined up in Grenada starting in December that I was going to go work at a medical school that has people from all over the world at it. Sort of the kind of people who didn't get into med school because maybe their daddy wasn't important enough, or they didn't get really fabulous grades as an undergrad, but then they worked at something else and they're like, no, medicine's my passion, I want to do that. And they're just not traditional students. So they, you know, missed the boat in some way. And I thought, wow, that I really love that idea. Plus the dean there is one of my best friends from grad school. And so that was another reason that was an opportunity. But now working on turning teacher training and oral skills for graduate students into online classes that still honor that connection, that empathy, that getting to know each student, that talking to people individually, that's really important to me, and I can do it in this context. So my goal, my short-term, long-term goals have changed. As Alex well knows, I talk all the time about like, when should I retire and how should I retire and what should my job be after retirement? What can I do with those last years and the experience that I've gained? And I think that for like the next 5 years or so, I want to continue to teach in various capacities, but I've been looking for opportunities through effective altruism to have more of an effect on the way rationalists and effective altruists deal with the lack of diversity in our community. And around communication issues in particular, I think that like right in this group, I'm experimenting with a kind of listening and turn taking that's really foreign to me, that's really alien to me. You know, this isn't how we do it in academia. But people are really resistant to that. People are resistant to stopping and going, wait, I don't know how to listen to you because I come from a different culture, or I don't know how to hear what you're saying. And that, I would say, is my long-term goal, is to work on that in those two communities, because I think they're important and they do a lot of outreach. And I'm done talking.
Thank you, Mary. Did that work okay? I'm trying to like figure out how to like signal without interrupting. So does like the thumbs up for 1 minute and clap for the time's up? Is that, can I get a thumbs up if that works for everyone?
Over time?
No, that was perfect. You actually like ended like right at 5 minutes. So I just wanted to make sure that was an effective strategy for everyone.
I have trouble noticing anything on the periphery, so you should probably go like this time to stop me.
Yeah. I can do that. I can do like the, what is that? the like the car lot guy. Chris had a jump.
Yeah, because I don't see the chat when I'm thinking or listening to somebody. And
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Mary. All right. So if you have any thoughts that you want to share, please raise your hand.
John?
Yeah, I like what you say. I just wanted to maybe add a little bit to it, not too long. I'm gonna watch the clock here for myself. The same person that kind of inspired me when I was talking also said that he was really bad in math. So taking like a graduate student course through physics was maybe not something you would have expected to do. But when you're interested in something, you find a way. And that I thought was really cool to hear, because it's totally true. And the other thing I've found in my career as a software developer, there's been several places where people have been very toxic behind people's backs, talking about, oh, this person just like, they're not a good developer. Like we can all solve these crazy problems, and this person like always doesn't seem to get it. And I've seen that a dozen times, and it kind of pisses me off, frankly, because it seems to be a mentality a lot of people have. And in my opinion, it takes a village, and everyone can contribute in different ways. And people that aren't great problem solvers typically tend to do all the software development tasks that the other guys don't want to do, which is actually very, very important to a functioning team. So you don't need to be great. You just need to be curious and like what like the thing that you're doing.
do we have time for Lisa? Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Just quickly, I wanted to share that I love the idea of reminding people of the importance of respect and curiosity. A lot of us are, like you said, not knowing how to listen, and typically we're listening to respond instead of to understand and to grow. And I want to thank you for sticking with it and trying to do your efforts to create respect and connection, especially with online learning. Because I think if we had one thing that we could work on to support education in the future, it's authentic connection. Because when you're connected, you learn, and you have to. If you feel safe, you can learn.
Thank you. And I will pass it on to Maximus. Yes.
Thank you, Mary. Yeah, this what Lisa just said, this feeling safe and feeling comfortable, to me personally is very, very important. And it also involves hesitation and waiting and taking your time. And not immediately saying what you, yeah, what you basically expect yourself to say, but sort of let that pass. And so I feel emotional about this. And it means so much to me because there's so much pressure on everybody. And then, yeah, we put it on ourselves too. So that was my short-term goal, just to create comfort. And the second one was, you know, the immediate goal was to create comfort, but then the short-term goal was to learn to trust the process and to really let the process reveal itself. And you know, I hesitate to talk about it, but I'm currently reading a book. I just want to mention it to you because it is just really a profound book. It is by Lawrence Fraley. He's a behaviorologist, and he wrote a book which is titled About Science, Life, and Reality. And it just completely brings home for me what I myself have always felt and have always in my own way tried to articulate. And it's just amazing how one can read such an incredible great work. And yeah, and just find your own way, you know, because that is really what I teach people also, to find their own way. I am going my own way, and I think everybody has to go their own way. And yeah, that's really what that's what the science of behavior or behaviorology also actually tells us, that we cannot do anything else because we are yeah, on our own. To put it simple. I know that everybody would like to believe that we're all connected and that we're all together and that we are all in a community and in a culture and all that. But when we look at how we are functioning, then we are just behaving our reality neurologically. And so the other is actually something that we neurally behave. And our environment is something that we neurally behave. And when we talk accordingly, yeah, then we have a whole different conversation. And I'm currently just sort of reading this book and sort of feeling how that sort of matches with what I have been saying. And I'm looking forward to the next semester, which is going to start in a couple of weeks, where I will also, yeah, include this new way of viewing reality, basically, and with the full confidence that yeah, that is where it's at, you know, to just really not only just state that, but explore that and completely be in trust of that. Yeah. So how that's kind of, I feel emotional about this. I don't know, but it's just how I feel today. I felt hesitating about saying this, but at the same time, this is how I've lived my whole life.
Thank you, Maximus. I really.
Yeah.
One thing that you said really connected with me and connected with something that kind of came to me during a conversation with Rachel yesterday, is that, you know, we as humans, see and we can feel these things. And then when we read something that finally gives us the words to help us articulate those things that we've been, the pictures that we've been seeing in our head and the thoughts we've been thinking and the feelings we've been feeling, it can be very profound. So thank you for sharing that, and thank you for sharing your vulnerability. If anybody else would like to share, you're welcome.
Thank you. So then the next person is, let me see.
Alex has his hand raised for conversation counsel.
Oh, Alex. Oh, sorry, I didn't see that, Alex. Yes, Alex.
I just put up like a couple of seconds ago there.
Oh.
I guess I'd like to just raise the awareness for once you get comfortable with that whole reality as a neurological construct sort of thing. As an eccentric existentialist and an applied philosopher, I think it's also important that you decide what you want to do with that, how that can help you get what you want. Just decide what you want and what you can use that to do in order to better get that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thank you for saying that, and definitely that's where it's at, and I feel very excited about that. So, and I know that it's going to be giving many good consequences. So I feel very, very, very hopeful also about what we can achieve with that, or what I can achieve with that. So, yeah, or anybody, you too. Yeah. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Maximus.
Yeah, you're welcome. Then we go to Rachel.
Thank you. So I'm going to start with the long term and work backwards. So my long-term goals are not as nailed down. I don't know exactly how, things are going to look, but I figure that's kind of how long-term goals go. But in 5 to 10 years, so in 10 years, my youngest will be finishing high school. So I feel like that, part of this goal with education is to make sure that her education is preparing her, and to work on systems, I'm going to say within the state, to really provide better training and support to those individuals who are supporting our learners, whether it's, teaching assistants or teachers or other providers or parents that are, we're all part of educating. Medium term, looking at similar, workforce development and ways maybe in the local school districts to sort of individualize education. I'm hopeful that with all the lessons learned from COVID and how we can look at things differently and education can be presented in different ways, that that we can take some of those lessons and some of the other things that have occurred during this time and use that to start making some more profound changes. Short term, we are on our own homeschool journey for this year. So specifically, one of the things that we are planning is to just do a lot more like cultural education, and what that's going to look like. There are these really cool like monthly subscription things that you can do that'll send you information about a country that are geared towards kids. I have found a monthly thing that's based on Black history and not just slavery and civil rights, like all of Black history. So we're going to be incorporating that, and then looking at ways to pull in Native history, because we're 10 minutes from Eklutna. Like we should know more about Eklutna, and I don't know anything about it, and we've lived here for 7 years, 8 years almost, and so we're all going to be learning a lot on that side. And then immediately, something that I'm working on that we should actually be able to launch here in a couple of weeks is a parent echo, and I'm super excited about this. So the echo model is not too dissimilar to like the action circle kind of thing. The idea is that there will be some information at the beginning, but then the rest is people coming with, okay, well, here's a question, or here's a challenge, or here's a situation, and then everybody else is contributing. Well, oh, I had something similar. You could look into this. You could look into that, and you've got some people there to make sure that, you know, we're staying focused on like best practice, but that we're, you know, that you're learning from each other. So a parent echo would have parents, you know, who are involved in, this one's focused on education at home, because there are brand new homeschooling families. There are families that are now having to navigate online learning. And there are families that, you know, if we're in a hybrid model, that, you know, their kids are home more frequently than they would have been. And that whole trusting the school to do the education, and now it's more on the home, and a lot of parents, myself included, you know, not sure that we know exactly what we should be doing. And so trying to connect parents and provide some resources, but also just be able to learn from each other and kind of create that network. So super excited about that. And I think I'm at my time.
Awesome. Thank you. And I'm going to, so my contribution to the Conversation Council are those 3 resources for homeschool education related to Indigenous cultures in Alaska. See Alaska Heritage has a ton of great, amazing resources. So, and then we'll open it up.
Yeah, Alex?
You said that the parent echo was something sort of like an action circle that you're going to have to help people discuss how to deal with more schooling at home, that sort of thing. Does that have an established set of protocols or something like?
Yeah, so the University of New Mexico has the Echo Institute, and there's 4 official pillars and 1 sort of unofficial pillar that is all teach, all learn. And yeah, there's a process, and through my work with the university, we've actually been running echoes on a variety of topics for a few years now, and have done a lot to help get information out that are COVID specific. So actually we have funding that's COVID specific that we're gonna gear towards this, because this is why there are parents that need more information. It's because of COVID. So, and then hopefully hand it over to Department of Education or something like that that can then maintain that as an ongoing thing. So yeah. But the Echo Institute, Project Echo, if you wanted to Google it, that's what it is. Mary.
Mine is very specific, but my daughter had a 5th grade teacher who every week through the Wisconsin winters took the kids to various places around the city, often within walking distance. I mean, we do have an arboretum within walking distance of her school, to be fair, and had them observe nature and take notes. And this is something, she's 27 now. She can still watch an anthill for 2 hours and report on it. And she has an appreciation for that type of learning that I think is, I mean, that's the first thing that I thought of when like all the schools have to go online. I'm like, great, send them out in the backyard and have them watch the squirrels and take notes and observe. It's such a good way to learn to do research and think and notice your environment. So that's it. It's that basic. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a lot of what we did this spring, was was be outside, and she loves nature, and we're gonna continue to do that. So thank you. I'm glad to hear like how it sort of continues. Oh, sorry, and I will pass to Lisa.
In some ways, I wish the two songs you picked this morning, I start with those because I was actually reflecting this morning, and that's where all my angst came from on something, and I was ready to let it go. And then you play I Won't Back Down, and I had to chuckle. And then I'm trying to balance when to let it be, when to just say enough, and it will all unfold as it should. And this isn't all going to make sense at the moment, but so do I keep the torch lit? Do I fight to keep the torch lit? Or do I simply let what could have been just be the flicker of a candle in what we already have? And so when we talk about long-term and short-term, in the short term, I'm working on the long term. A few years ago, my students were given the task of creating a process to create new schools in rural Alaska. And, but the directions we were given were from outside of our structure and our district structure, but we were told to go on with it. And so we did. And the kids have done an incredible amount of work, hopefully creating a 21st century school. At the same time, that vision has hit up against walls of those who want to please they call them the penny pinchers, the bureaucrats, and of course when I say, well, why can't we sit down and talk with them and explain? I know it sounds naive, but I used to be one of those, and so you can. But with COVID, with district transition, with everything else, I feel like we're at that last opportunity to do what could be, what's possible. And I've looked at myself and thought, wait a minute, a couple years ago, I kept waiting for permission for us to do this. And it's the wrong approach to be, but that's always been how I've been. And I keep getting pushed back from waiting for permission. So in the long term, I'm not going to give up on trying. No, in the long term, I'm not going to give up on supporting my kids' work to create an opportunity for what education could be. Because they've done great work, guys. And then in the short term, in addition to doing that, I actually, last spring when we had the shutdown, if you will, I kind of loved the opportunity for creativity, for those moments of going outside. You know, our kids live in the best classroom of the world. It's the largest temperate rainforest. We have all these cultures, and I always tell the kids, if we go deep and narrow, you can learn so much. And then from there, as you have interests in other areas, you know how to find more, because as long as you can connect that learning. So I'm excited about this fall semester. And I'm doing world studies, but starting, as See Alaska taught me, with place-based learning, starting here, and then we'll move out. I hope I made a little bit of sense, and I want to thank you, because I don't think I need to say anymore. Thank you.
Can you see their hands raised? It might be more, I think it's
Well,
a little,
my sound went out. I'm sorry.
no, that's okay. Okay, so I don't know, because I think, are you on a phone? I don't know if you can see hands raised, or what that function is.
I saw Mary's hand up.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so I'm just wondering if you're, and maybe you've already thought of this, probably you've already thought of this, but is there an advocate a couple steps up the ladder? I feel like it's really important, and it's also something I'm very bad at myself, so I can't tell you precisely how to do it, but when you have something that's important to you, it's often important. It's great if you can identify some other person who's sympathetic, who has more clout than you do, or more, who can get in, like someone in the school board or whatever, who can get in and go like, no, this, because honestly, people don't care about the students that much. They don't vote. They don't have a lot of clout. And so the fact that they've put a ton of work in is like, well, that was good for them. Fine, let's move on. Even if the idea is brilliant, is there someone you can involve who can be your voice at a higher level?
you know those political situations where I'm torn right now. I have to work that out. I appreciate that, Mary. I do.
Okay. We got it.
Alex.
I don't know if we'll be back this afternoon. I'm trying to make bread boil.
Without knowing the ins and outs of the situation, I can't offer super detailed advice, but I just want to say I really appreciate what you're doing, and I hope that you don't let the bureaucrats win, because they always want to make things neat and tidy, and they don't really care about the lives represented by what's on their paper. There's a reason that they're the ultimate villains of Discworld, and also owns the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So I usually try and discredit the process that they've put in place, saying like, well, this was just put in because it's easy, but that doesn't mean it's good. So anything that you can to undermine the ethos of the systems they're using.
Most definitely. Awesome. Okay. Angelina, we are passing to you.
Thank you. This was a really good exercise for me to get clear on my goals. Perfect timing. I'm a little intimidated by my notes and my ability to read them, so I'm going to go kind of slow and try not to take up too much time. I just want to preface that I'm driven by this conversation, by my own experience in school. You know, such a struggle, and I know that it formed my beliefs about myself, around my intelligence and confidence and self-worth. So I think that's why I wanted to do it differently for my children. So in the immediate, and I guess the last 10 years, my goal has been to support my children in their, in fostering their intrinsic motivation to learn by following their own interests and giving them choice. And it was super challenging. I felt pretty alone in it. I had a lot of support online, but the community here is pretty, I don't know, people come and go. So it was really hard to create community. So my goal was to create community. And that's what my short range goal. What's happening now is that I've moved in with 2 single moms and our 5 kids. And we're creating a homeschool, life learning, self-directed living situation. And we're all gonna homeschool. My goal is just to promote the crucial life skills like relationship and communication skills and conflict resolution skills and growing food together and cooking together and all the things that I feel are pretty important that I don't feel happens in the school setting. my 2 to 4 year goal is I'm trying to figure out what my next step is, but I'm looking at parent coaching training, and I want to support parents in fostering their relationships and connections with their children, and in partnering with their children in their education to think out of the box for different ways to do it. This is what my parent coach did for me. So she's inspired me, and I can hope that that can ripple out to others. Long range, 5 to 10. I'm curious what the possibilities are. But I feel like there's going to be a huge shift, so I'm excited to be a part of that. That's it. Any feedback, thoughts, questions? Better look for the hands. Alex?
So how do you have some sort of approach that that you're using for all of the homeschooling, and I forget what words you used to describe how you were doing that?
Well, we've been not big on labels, but if I have to use it, unschooling, life learning, self-directed education. So I'm not a traditional homeschooler. We don't really use curriculum other than just everyday living, you know, learning through cooking maybe, or whatever the child's interest is. That's been my goal, but I will say that it hasn't been perfect the way I would like it to be, and the way that it seems to happen for other people. But that's kind of why I wanted to do it with other families, because I feel like we can learn from each other. My housemates are better at some things than I am, and hopefully I can support them as well. So I'm hoping my kiddos may learn more structure from the other families than I'm not very structured. So I don't know if that answers your question, but.
I think it does. It only just now occurred to me that learning through cooking actually could go tremendous ways, because cooking, like in my mindset toolbox, cooking itself uses education mindset, which would enable people to be able to learn all sorts of other things just by engaging those thought processes.
Yes. I think for me, it requires, I need a connection to what I'm doing to learn from it, where I didn't cook. That's where I'm, you know, the math, you can learn so much math from cooking, from measuring and all kinds of things.
Yeah, that's so, I love that. And when I was doing my research the other day on, you know, all of those things came up: unschooling and agile learning communities and self-directed learning. And I came across a website that had this amazing list of like the best learning coloring books and the best learning cookbooks, that I was like, yes, these are great. And so I was like, had this idea to have kids pick like which coloring book they wanted to do, because there's like art history and anatomy and just like, you know, really, and bugs, right? And so it's like learning through coloring and learning through cooking. I just like, I was so inspired by that. So thank you so much, Angelina.
Thank you.
Miss Sheena, you're up.
Thank you for tolerating my juggling all over the place. Hopefully it's not making anyone seasick or bouncy sick. And I missed out on the first portion, but I've gathered, I'm assuming I'm last, but I'm gathering that we are sharing our short-term and long-term goals. Or maybe someone can clear up exactly what it is, just to make sure that I'm clear on what I'm presenting here and what my thoughts are here. I've jotted some things down, but I want to make sure it goes along with what you're asking, Abby.
Yeah, you were right on, Sheena. So we had taken some time to reflect upon what our like immediate plans. So like right now, what are we doing? Our short term in the next 6 months to a year, our medium term in the next 2 to 4 years, or long term in the next 5 to 10. And then choose, you have 5 minutes to share some or all of that.
All right, and I can't see any signals, Abby, so just go ahead and just give me your voice when time's up, okay?
Okay, perfect.
Wow, it's so beautiful to hear from everyone and hear everyone's perspective. And okay, so for short term, what I put down here is just to be present. And my scientific brain is kicking in here in the sense that I want to really observe through, at least just through my present lens as a mom, as a parent, and watching my kids and their experience and what we're doing now. We are doing distance learning. It started this Thursday. I have a very unique and I feel so privileged to be home. I'm not working right now. So I am, for the first couple of days, I'm sitting, next to where they are at. And my scientific brain is wanting to observe and see, okay, how are teachers, because I can hear what they're learning and what teachers saying, and also seeing, really, really observing, okay, how are my children responding to this, and how are the teachers being in this new way that they have to teach. And I can clearly see a bunch of anxiety from teachers, because especially those who are not used to navigating a technological format. And so they're just doing the best that they can, and they know they really cherish seeing, kids' faces, and, it was cute. One of the teachers had like a image, and it was like as if you were in a lecture hall and there were seats, and you put all the kids' faces, and he's like, oh, look, there's my class. I can see all of you. It was the cutest thing. But lots of anxieties, I think, on parents' part, on helping them navigate the technology piece. I think teachers are feeling anxious about how to, I think they also have double the workload. And I know this because my brother-in-law is also a teacher, and I believe he's going, he teaches out in California. So I think for short term, just being present to what is with I guess our current situation now, and just really observing and listening to my kids and what kind of signals am I getting from them. I always try and listen to them instead of me pushing my agenda. The parent says we're gonna do this, and this. I really try and follow what kind of things am I getting. Am I seeing a lot of anxiety, and how can I be there for them, and is this what we need to, is this what we're going to choose to continue, or are we going to make a different choice? But for now, just being very present. I think and also everything's sort of
got a minute left.
I think offering just ongoing gratitude to teachers for all of their hard work that they're putting into right now, knowing that this is hard for them too. and it's hard for parents. And so I think that adults actually might be struggling more than the kids are right now. Kids, you know, I think they if they're in a supportive environment, you know, they adjust pretty quickly, you know, to changes. Usually, at least with my kids. I don't know all kids, but so I think what I'm noticing and I'm wanting to make sure is just that I'm putting out gratitude in some form or another to parents and to teachers, because what they're doing right now is not easy, and they're I mean, some of them come across as straight up frustrated that they're in this position to have to teach this way. This is not how they want to teach. They don't want to teach like this, but they're doing the best that they can, and they are showing their cheerful faces as best they can, and so I just have a tremendous amount of respect. And so that gratitude piece is important for me to put out there. How will I do that? Any way that I can.
Your 5 minutes. Sorry.
Oh, that's my 5 minutes already?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I have one last thing for my long term.
Go for it.
real quick. Okay. Is to foster a community of support through appreciative inquiry, which is a process that gathers people together to create generative and appreciative questions, very similar to what you're doing, Abby, and to what, I'm forgetting your name, the ECHO thing, but long term, I'd like to create groups where people are, if they're struggling with something, that we flip it into how do we want to be, and then helping generate questions that help us get to a place where we can act like this. And that's going to take work to develop those questions. It takes preparing it takes time to prepare the right questions to help people feel supported and feel safe enough to open up and generate their own conclusions. So that would be long term, but that's also short term. Everything sort of blends together for me. Thank you for listening.
Welcome. Thank you. Okay, so open up for conversation, Counsel, and I'll watch for raised hands. Alex, and then Maximus.
I like the idea of the generative and generative and appreciative questions, because I think there's an undiscovered art of helping people by asking the right questions. I was wondering if you had any sort of questions in mind, because I'd like to learn more about what kinds of questions really help.
Absolutely. When I sit down and I think about questions, sometimes they come easily to me, but truthfully, it takes time to really sit. It takes work to think inquisitively about, okay, what am I wanting to help people generate here, and what questions are going to lead to those. And so I don't have any prepared now, but I have a framework from which to follow. Anyone who's interested, I'd love to have like a joined group meeting, and we can this. It takes practice to generate the right questions for what it is that you're looking for. If you're interested, we can to develop those, but they're meant. So generative meaning people are in people's and what connecting to what they believe in, yeah, I hope that helps answer your question.
Well, yeah, I'd definitely like to learn more about that and the framework and everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. And Maximus.
Hi, so nice to talk with you, Sheena, that you're in your car with your family on your way traveling, and I see your kids in the back, and I saw your daughter peeking over your shoulder there for a little bit. It's just wonderful, and I hear I respond to your what you're saying about community and about connecting, and I just want to let you know that I hear you, and connect with you and say hi, and I wish you good travels. Yeah, I know it's we're just in this world, and you are there in your car with your family, and we're sitting here at home behind a computer, and it's just wonderful that our technology allows all this and that we can have this conversation. So thank you for what you were just saying. I just wanted to say hi. So hi. Hi.
Well, thank you all so much for sharing what you're doing, sharing yourselves, sharing your stories. And this process for me has been it's like learning through cooking. So I feel as though like this action circle is like the cauldron that we've put a bunch of stuff into, and we're stirring the pot, and 4 gatherings later, and look where we are. And it's just the thought and the theory and the impetus behind this that we're doing here was just kind of it had a lot of conceptually systematic processes into it, but also a lot of heart, a lot of my every ounce of my being, and a lot of hope and prayer. Like, is this like, I think this is right, I think this is the right action. And I am so happy with what has come out of this process. And so I thank you all for your support. I have so much love and gratitude for every single one of you. And I'm really looking forward to the next cycles, and to see where this cyclical process will take us, kind of spiraling up into kind of some greatness, and then spiraling down into kind of our cores as humans, and as we are in our own little islands, remaining as connected as we can, our islands of sanity, if you will. It's from so today we finished up our conversation about what we're doing as individuals and as a collective to transform education. Our goal was to bring the right people into the circle so we could find our path forwards towards a peaceful world through collective action. Our perspectives were diverse, but our needs were universal. Our stories were different, but our ultimate goal was the same. Together we are taking action. Together we are transforming education, and together we are creating peace. So I thank you all for joining us. I hope you'll join us again next weekend when we move into our next Action Circle cycle, which will be hosted by our very own Alex, and we'll focus on transforming our minds, transforming our mindsets. So if you would like to join us after I end the recording for a little social time, you are more than welcome to stay on. And if you have to drop off, we will see you next weekend. Thank you.